So this is the new coding rooms. I don't know if all of you have seen this before, but the old coding rooms looks like this, and the new coding rooms. Oh, let me give you an example here. Looks pretty similar, but has a lot more functionality. Joe gives great webinars on the new functionality, and we'll be advertising those coming up. I'm not going to get into that because we don't really have time, but the new layout is also a little bit nicer. And one thing that to be aware of, it sounds like a couple of people teach APCSA. So this is great, but Coding Rooms has taken one of my, I taught APCSA last year and made a whole bunch of FRQs that are auto-graded. So if you are interested in that, then we can definitely get that out to you, and you can use these or edit them as much as you want. One cool thing about this is that you can see, so this is answer 1C. And as I'm sure you're aware, often the answers for the later parts depend on the answers to the former parts. And if I put the answer to 1B as a Java file in here, well, hey, they would just copy it and paste it back in 1B and they'd be done. So what I did was I created a jar file that is used by these programs, but obviously they can't see the code inside. Yes, if they want to, they can figure out a way to decompile the jar file and get some resemblance of the Java code back. But if they're going to bother to do that, they're probably advanced enough, and it would just be faster for them to just answer it themselves anyway. So there are more advanced ways to obfuscate Java code, which if you're worried about that, you know, I can get into another time. But so if you're interested in using some of these auto-graded FRQs that have already been made for you, you can check them out, and there's links to all the questions in there too. All right, so this is the new Coding Rooms interface, and I'm going to make a new course just for us. You can see CS Awesome is an APCSA curriculum that is great. It's what I use, and it is integrated with Coding Rooms now, so it's a really nice curriculum. Feel free to check it out. Just Google CS Awesome and it'll come up. There's also a great support group where people are emailing the group all the time and helping each other out and answering questions. Teachers only, not students. So I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to call it Java Auto Grading 2021-11-10. And
mind you, John, I just want to say that everyone too, that if you're interested in the new Coding Rooms interface, send a message to hello@codingrooms.com, and they'll be kind of releasing it to more people soon. And so if you'd like to get on that list, just let them know. And the second thing is, everything John's going to show about setting up the auto grading will work essentially the same way in the old style coding room. Yes. So if you're looking to hang on to that, just know that setting up the auto grading is exactly the same. The IDE is going to be the same. What you're going to say.
Is the CS Awesome available in both?
Sadly, that is only available in the new version because of the type of things that are in CS Awesome, such as multiple choice questions and a couple of the Parsons problems and stuff like that. So all those new great features are supported just in the new version of Coding Rooms. And some of that work that they did was aligned to those kind of open textbook platforms.
Is there something we need to do to get the new version, or do we need to?
Yeah. Right now it's in beta testing phase. So if you're interested in being part of that, just email hello@codingrooms.com.
Okay. That's what you were just saying. Thank you.
No problem.
And I've put a link to that email address in the chat. And I also put a link to this classroom that I just created. So you all can join as students if you'd like. You don't have to. I'm not going to add you as teachers right now. You can get a copy of this classroom later on, but for now, you'll see the teacher view on my screen and you'll see the student view on your screen so that you can see what it looks like from a student's perspective. So here's Java Autograding. If you want to, you can change these pictures and do all sorts of fancy things. Again, I'm not going to get into the functionality. Down here, it says there's no content in this course yet. Create to start building your course now. And again, there's lots of different things you can do. I am just going to create a coding assignment. I'm going to call it, let's just call it Hello World. We'll start with a simple one. It's going to be graded. I'm going to accept submissions, and I'm going to make it in Java. All right, so this is the default template that comes up whenever you create a new assignment. It always looks like this. So it will print out Hello World if I run it. There we go. I can add information here to this assignment. I'm not going to right now. What I want to show you is the test bench. So here's the test bench. I just clicked on test bench. I'm going to click add a test case. And for this type of problem, right, I'm just printing something out. So the makes most sense to do input-output comparison. Beyond the most basic types of programming assignments, I prefer to use JUnit testing. But for just getting started, Hello World type of stuff, this is great. The problem with it is it has to be, the students have to be very, very precise, right? If they, whoops. I don't remember exactly what here. If they forget to capitalize something, if they, right, so if they have a lowercase w here, or if they put an exclamation mark at the end or a period, or they forget the comma, it's not going to work. And so input output is very, very finicky, but you know, it's great for stuff like this. So here we go. The title is Hello World. I should delete the exclamation mark. It's worth 1 point. This is the compare method. Even with a flexible method, it's still picky, and you can try this out and you'll see what I mean by that. You can start doing regular expressions, but if you're going to get into regular expressions, you might as well get into JUnit testing. So
I prefer doing JUnit testing instead of regular expressions. You know what I mean? I'm not.
Exactly.
It gets pretty complex.
Exactly. So I'm going to say there's no input being passed in here. And the output should say exactly Hello World. And then my model solution prints out Hello World. It's the same as the template. So I can just click these run tests here. And it passed the test because it printed out Hello World exactly the way I had it. So it's really that simple to create a basic test. I mean, that was, what, a copy and paste in 5 clicks. So I've published the Hello World assignment now, and sorry.
No, sorry, now I see it there. Yeah.
Yep. So all you have to do is click submit because the template is the correct solution, and you'll get 100%. So Joe got 100% through the Autograder, but I didn't like Joe's answer. I think he plagiarized from Michael, and so I'm going to actually set his to 0. And you can see it's set to 0 now. So even though the Autograder works, if you have a reason for changing a grade, either higher or lower or whatever, you can still go in and decide what the grade is. So the auto grader works great, but you don't have to. You can override it, with your human opinion. All right, so I'm going to make a little more complicated coding assignment this time. I'm just going to call it, I don't know, basic Java, and it's going to be worth 3 points this time. That's going to be Java. All right, and so I'm actually copying and pasting here so to save a little bit of time. But what I want to have the students do here is in the test me class, I want them to write the following methods. So they're going to so I'm just formatting here to make it look a little better and show off a little bit what you can do. All right, so there's 3 methods they're going to have to write: multiply, divide, and is even. And the reason that I'm choosing these will become obvious in a minute, but it's because they return different values, or different types, sorry, integers, doubles, and Boolean. And we're going to use slightly different syntax for testing the results of each of these. So the template's going to also look a little different this time. Like I said, this is the default template. This is what always comes up. But my main class now, I'm going to try to create a test me object. I'm going to call multiply, divide, and is even. So what I do is I give the students a way to test their own code before they're submitting against the auto grader. So just some really simple printouts. They can change this in their template code. So if they want to see if negative numbers work, right, they would have to actually go in and change that to a negative. But when they run their code, it'll print this out. I also am going to give them a new file called test me, and this is going to be where they actually write their solution. So I'm just going to bring this over so you can see it a little better. So here's the test me class, and I like to add a lot of comments to help out the kids a little bit. So and to exemplify what they should be doing in their own code, but there's not a lot of complexity obviously in these methods. So there's multiply, there's where they need to fill in their code, because by default it returns 10 for everything. There's divide, which returns 0 for everything, and there is even, which returns false again for everything. So if I just run this code, it's going to say 40 times 5 is 10, 10 divided by 2 is 0, and 4 is not even, because that's what this code does in the template file. So they have to go into this test me, as it says in the instructions over here in the test me class. I should, maybe say fill in the following methods: multiply, divide, and is even. And what I need to do next, because this is the way I want the students to see it. I'm not going to put my answer in here. What I want to do is put my answer in this area called the model solution. So once I've created this template and I click on the model solution, I have my main file here and my test me file here, and I'm going to put my solution inside this model solution. And the students cannot see this. So if you go into this, here, let me publish this assignment quick. If you go into this assignment now, you will not see the model solution. So my model solution, hopefully I do this right the first time, is return A times B, for multiply, return A divided by B. For divide, return A at 2 for is even. Okay. So now you can see that my model solution actually works. 40 times 5 is 200, 10 divided by 2 is 5, and is even 4 is true. But I want to create some tests that are a little bit more than just this, printout. So in the test bench, I'm going to add a test case. I'm going to call it test multiply. And you can make it for whatever points you want. And I'm going to make it a unit test. So input output we already did. Manual means literally you have to check each one manually, but we want automated testing, so we're going to use a unit test. Here is a very handy little piece of text that you can put in to help your students if they get a failure back on the case. So in this case, I don't know, we'll say 50 times 10 should return 500 or something. This will be our test for today. And down here is the actual unit test code. So we don't really need any setup or teardown for this simple project. You can create objects and do all sorts of exciting things if you need to, but I would say 99% of the time even for AP-CSA, you don't need to worry about the setup and teardown methods. What we're really interested in is this test default case. So the first thing we need to do is create a new test me object. We're going to, I like to, again, you don't need to do this, but you can, system.out.print line 50 times 10 should return 500. I like to give the students a lot of different ways to see what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. And then use assert equals. And this is the key to unit testing, is this method called assert equals. The first argument is what you expect the answer to be. So I expect the answer to be 500. The second argument in this case is the method that you're calling. So in the test me object, I'm calling multiply with 510. And you can, if you'd like, well, let's run this first, and then I will go to the model solution, and I will click run tests. This time the unit test passed as expected, and we can start adding another test case. So this time we're going to go test divide. It's another unit test. And this time we have to do, something a little bit different. So let's say, let's make it, let's make it a little bit fancy. Let's divide 50 by 3. So dividing 50 by 3 should return 16.66666. And hopefully, being computer science teachers, you know immediately what the problem with this unit test is going to be. Computers don't know what 16.66 infinite repeating is, right? There's no way to have it be exactly equal. So luckily, JUnit has a facility in this case where for asserting equals with doubles, you add a third parameter. And that third parameter is the delta. How much difference are you willing to accept? So in this case, 5 significant digits is definitely enough. If it's 16.66666, they've done the right thing. If it were 16.7, it wouldn't match, the test would fail. So this is why I chose integers for the multiply and doubles for the divide, is specifically to show this third parameter here, which you pass in your delta. So let's go ahead and run the tests on this. And it passed. And then finally, I'll do the Boolean. Again, I'm going to use a unit test for this. And you can pick whatever you want, but the slightly different syntax for this is we're going to use something called assert true instead of assert equals. You could use assert equals, right? It works exactly the same way. I could say assert equals true, with is even, right? Or false if it's an odd. But I just wanted to show that there is an assert true method that you can use. And so if we test this, all 3 of these are coming back as passed. And again, remember, it's using my model solution, not the template code. So now what I'd like you to do is go into the assignment and just fill in your methods. Try it, with the wrong answer first, just to see what happens. I can go into the student preview as well. But go ahead and go into it yourself and give it a shot. Right now, all you would see is the template. And so 40 times 5 is wrong. 10 divided by 2 is wrong. Is even is wrong. So they have to go into the files and fix this. So that's what I'd like you to do. And then try submitting it. And I will show you your grades once you've had a chance to do that. And Coding Room saves all of their submissions as well. So I just click check answer myself. And because I am in the student view, I'm only looking at the template code here. It failed all of them.
I ran it and didn't get the failed message, although it shows 0 out of 3 points.
Running the code and checking your answer are 2 different.
Oh, right. So
Two
at the top, at the top, there's a run button. And then at the bottom left here, you'll see there's a check answer button. So that's one of the reasons I add this template code is so students can run it. They always seem a little bit scared to check their answer, like there's something wrong with doing that. If they get the wrong answer, they'll look bad or something. But so you can run check answer as many times as you want, and it will mark it as failed or passed. If you click run, it doesn't actually check your answers for you. It just runs the code.
So the check answer is basically running the test cases that you set up in the test bench, right? The student
Absolutely.
can't access the test bench themselves.
That's correct.
Thank you.
So, since we have a little bit of time, I can even talk a little bit more about that. If I return to editing, what I actually do in my test benches is instead of just having one, right, I will often have a few different versions here, right? 550, make sure that negative numbers work, you know, and so on and so on and so on. But also, you can put any Java code you want in here. So what I often do is, oh, I have to do that refresh again. But what I often do is I will create random numbers. I will add my own solution. So for something like this, right, you could just, I'm just going to do pseudocode here, right? Repeat, I don't know, 100 times. Assert equals, or, you know, A equals a random number, B equals a random number, and then assert equals A times B, PM dot multiply AB, something like that. So the nice thing about that is you can put literally any valid Java code in here and assert equals as many times as you want, and it will go through all this code for you. Again, I would say most of the time, I just put in 4 or 5 different things. It's only for the real big challenges that I'll go through the effort of making a lot of randomized tests, a lot of different tests. Because for the easier problems, you know, if they get 5 different things right, they've usually solved the problem. But if you're making sort of additional challenges, or like once you get into recursion and a little more complicated problems, sometimes it's worth adding sort of bounds checking, off by, you know, checking for off by 1 errors, checking for if things are looping too much. You can add really big numbers, things like that.
So if you were to do like a loop test and do multiple tests, is on the student end, are they still just going to see a pass fail, or it's going to
Yes.
be okay?
Right. So what I do is I put different kinds of tests in different test cases. So for example, if I were actually assigning this to people, I would have test multiply, and I might have 2 or 3 of these really simple ones in one test case. Then I would create another one with a randomized for loop of 1,000 different ones, or 100 different, or whatever it is, so that they can see right away if the test fails in the easy solutions or in the easy tests before they get really frustrated with the more challenging tests in a different test case that they may not understand as well. But you can put as much information as you want in this as well. Feedback for failed test case, you know, you can say this test case multiplies in 100 random numbers and checks the result. Positive and negative integers, or something like that. So that at least they know what they're up against if it fails.
Essentially, what I like to think about each of the individual test cases as is like my rubric. What are the individual items I'm looking for? And then what's great about it too, as it auto grades, is it kind of, you know, checks each box to kind of create the score for the students there. So even for larger projects, for things that can't be auto graded, John, if you'd like to show off that one of the test cases you can actually create is a manual grading. And so I'll even do things like good variable names, in which can't be auto graded, but I can go in and I can fill in a point for the students because the test case isn't the test cases essentially create the rubric for me.
So here's the manual test case. You know, it says variable names. I can assign as many points to it as I want. And, you know, they can, you know, you can publish that rubric and tell them, you know, I want to, 1 point of this is going to be your variable names. And then you go through and check their code and make sure. One advantage of doing the randomized tests as well is then they can't just figure out what the answers are supposed to be and just have them return that answer without actually doing the algorithm. So that is auto grading in a nutshell. Great question so far, by the way. Thank you for speaking up. If anybody have any more questions or anything you'd like to see?
I feel like I have a lot, but I don't really know how to word them right now. I'm fairly new to coding rooms, so I haven't been using it too long. But so are you generally setting up a test bench for, would you say, all of your assignments or some of them, or only assessments? Like, how are you using it practically?
I personally do it for almost all of my assignments because I want to make sure that I know how to solve it, so that I have to create a model solution, and so that I test my model solution so that when I'm grading them, I really, you know, that I know what I'm talking about and that my code works and that I can, you know, really help them. So it is a valuable tool, I think, both for me, but also for them when they are, you know, checking their code, because they don't always know, especially at the beginning, how to make sure their code works. Even with a template like that, you know, when they're really new to it, having test bench, even for multiplication, I think where they can, check it and debug it on their own is a valuable pedagogical tool. And once you do it a few times, it's really, I know it can seem overwhelming going through it quickly in a half an hour, 45 minutes, but once you've tried it a couple times, I think you'll see that it's, you know, it's not a lot of extra work for you, and it actually saves you a lot of time by not having to go through every student's code with a fine-tooth comb.
Thank you.
And we can always help you with
Resource.
this. Sorry, I was just gonna, we can always help you with this too. If you're on Facebook, we can, you know, there's always people on Facebook that are in the coding rooms group that will answer your questions within, you know, minutes usually. And then you can always email us too. So. Joe just posted his resource from his website there, and that, and I'll be posting this video in the Coding Rooms YouTube channel as well. So once I edit out all the mistakes I made.
Yeah. So if you are interested in looking at more things with unit testing, my website has a number of different examples that you can look at that can hopefully help you discover certain ways to check for certain things in your student's code. Trying to grab the Facebook pages link.
Is there a good place to learn more about JUnit testing? I have never really worked with it before.
Check out my webpage, and I link directly to JUnit docs also there. If you just go to like assertions and unit testing page, this page here, I link directly to the official documentation also.
Oh, great. Thank you.
And I also just posted the Facebook page. If you're not part of the Facebook page, you can join that group if you are on Facebook. And it's, as John mentioned, a great community where you can post questions, and a lot of the community members will help out. There are a number of computer science groups that really you should look up if you're on Facebook, and it's really helpful.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Very welcome.
Yeah, even though I was kind of an absentee attendee, I was following along, and I did and appreciate the run through, and some of the hiccups, and kind of see how it all fits together and all works. So yeah, thanks so much. I've been using coding rooms for a while, mainly because VS Code integration for my kids who are on Chromebooks, and versus the other kids who had whatever, like their power gaming PC. So they all had the same working environment. That was the biggest point for me. And then, working in live classrooms and trying to get these auto grading going with it's really turning out to be quite the resource, to be honest. And it's I've been spreading it in the chats here with the Ontario teachers, and there's quite a few more teachers in this area who are using coding rooms now since when I picked it up last spring. So yeah, just the more I can use it efficiently, the better.
Feel free to let us know if the group of you over there in Ontario want to do some kind of meetup where we can kind of help you all out in one group. Just let us know.
Yeah, we're happy to do it.
Okay, thanks, gentlemen.
And honestly, the biggest thing for me was just students not having to take their code back and forth from class to home, losing USB drives or emailing it, or, I do GitHub integration with my higher level classes, but for intro classes, it's just nice. Just they can log in and just see their code exactly where they left it. So it's super nice.
Yeah, that's actually why VS Code was like the big deal, because it's kind of click, little comment, and no pull requests, nothing. They're the only person working on their folder, whatever. So it's not the real GitHub flow, but it's the easiest thing ever. But yeah, absolutely, it's nice being able to have it wherever you're going, even without knowing any GitHub.
Well, great. If no one has any more questions or requests, then we can wrap it up a couple minutes early here. And I'll send out some info to all of you who signed up for this webinar. We have your email addresses, so we'll get you on the list, and you'll get the resources and link to the newsletter. And if you have any more questions, just let us know, and we're happy to help you out.
Great. Thank you very much, John and Joe. Appreciate it.
Yes, thanks a lot. We appreciate it. Have a great night.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Have a wonderful night.